Hello, everyone. I'm Zhao Chuang. Today, we're going to draw the structure of the Allosaurus foot. We drew the reconstructed feet of Allosaurus earlier. Its feet had 4 visible toes, but there were actually 5, one of which was degenerated and wrapped by skin, leaving only a tiny bone. However, how does its reconstructed surface skin correspond to the inside bones? We need an extra angle to show it. It had many bones in its feet. This section was called the metatarsus, consisting of many bones. We can choose a single metatarsal bone, and a toe that is connected to it, to show how the toes were connected to the metatarsal bones and how its phalanges were connected to the surface pads. We can use this angle to interpret the footsteps of Allosaurus. Now, let's draw the structure of the Allosaurus foot. Looking at it from the side, we'll choose one of its toes. We've drawn its feet and seen what it looked like from another angle, but to understand its internal structure, such as how the bones fit into the skin, we need to look at it from the side. First, let's start with its ankle. Suppose this was the bone of its calf, the tibia. Here would be its metatarsal bone. There was some soft tissue between the tibia and metatarsal bone. Let's take the middle one of its 3 load-bearing toes, which was its 3rd toe, as an example. We draw this metatarsal bone here. And there were metatarsal bones on both sides. Looking from the outside, we are now drawing the 3rd metatarsal bone with a thick line. Its outside is the 4th one, and then the 5th one attached tightly, and the 1st and 2nd were further inside. We only focus on the 3rd one in the middle. Next, the metatarsal bones were linked with the phalanges. When stepping on the ground, the toes of dinosaurs were not completely flat, they had a certain angle downward, and gradually became flat in the front. Its 3rd toe had 3 phalanges, all of which were concave in the rear and convex in the front, forming a pulley-like structure. Further forward, here was its claw. The claw fossil was in the shape of a comma with a blood groove on the side. Then, we draw its restored structure. Let's draw its restored structure with another pen in a different color. Along this side of the instep, the skin here was very thin. The front of the ankle was slightly thicker due to the stretched tendons. Next, against the bone, the skin on the surface of the foot was very thin. There were some large scales here, and the scales disappeared and some wrinkles were formed here. Sticking to the toes, it always had large scales like this. There was a very thin layer of keratins that formed its toenails. The toenails should have been very sharp, but when walking, they were worn flat at this angle. It had very large pads under its toes. The starting point of the pad at the front was close to the toenail. The pad structures of different dinosaurs might be different. The most common speculation is that there was a pad under each bone. According to today's general land-walking birds, it should be like this, and some birds have the pads at the joints. We accepted and restored it in a way that each pad corresponded to a bone, because many footprints with recognizable pads show something like this. We draw a pad here, followed by another one. And there might be no third pad because it lifted the foot. But in this position, the back of the 3 toes might have together formed a larger pad. It lifted this bone up like this, and in this position there was a larger pad that supported the entire foot together. Here, we have to mention the inside first toe. Its joint was here, and its toenail was very long. From the bone alone, it seems that the claw could touch the ground, but this is rarely observed in fossils. It had a very long claw. This is because, when the ground was relatively hard, it was difficult for the toes to reach the ground due to the pads. If the mud was thicker, it went deeper and the toes had a chance to touch the ground. This explains why some fossils have 4-fingered footprints, while others have 5. At the back of this metatarsal bone, which was behind the ankle, there was a very large tendon, as well as relatively developed muscles, that pulled the 3 toes back. This is called the toe flexor, and this muscle was very developed. Therefore, the muscles in this position behind the dinosaur's feet tended to be fuller. The skin on the front was thinner, and the skin and flesh on the back was thicker. Moving further up concludes its entire foot. Good, like this, we've finished drawing the structure of the Allosaurus foot.